Welcome back to the book of Joshua. Today I have something special for you. We finished chapter 8 in our last session, but what I've been doing is highlighting some of the cities, and oftentimes I can fit them in the same session, but with AI I could not do that. That's a rather long chapter. So this is all about finding AI. How do you find a city that's been destroyed and is a mound, but 2, 3 centuries later, you don't even see the mound at all? So this is all about finding AI. And yes, that is sort of a picture of it. But let's go, how do you do this? How do you find out where these places are? There are still cities that have not been located or are question marks that the Israel Antiquities Authority has not gotten to. So I've given you a list, and we can just talk through them. I'm not going to read the verses to you. They're back in 7 and 8, because that's where we've learned about AI. But obviously the first one is you just don't get in an airplane and fly over and look and write down all the hills that nobody's digging in. That doesn't work, nor does it if you just get in your car and start driving around the general area where you know where Bethel was, perhaps. Then you start looking for all these other places, you might find it. That's usually what happened in the past. Men would be on foot with, a donkey or a horse. All right, so you start with the Bible. If you start with the Bible, one, it tells you that it existed and tells you what happened to it. So we go to the Bible and we find location deduction. And if we do that, we are in the right place doing the right thing. So here's what we do know, all right? It has to be adjacent or nearby to Beth Aven. And you're going to see a map next. It has to be east of and near to Bethel. It has to have an ambush site between Bethel and Ai. Do you remember the 40,000 that were pulled apart and they hid back behind the city? But Bethel would have been over their shoulder. Bethel was still far enough miles away they couldn't see. I must have a militarily significant hill north of Ai where the Israelite army camped. So it had to be a hill out of sight, and it had to be strategically placed. All right, and then lastly, I had to be close to a shallow valley north where Joshua and the decoy force could be seen by the king of Ai. All right, so they'd pop out and the king would see them and say, "Oh, gather the army," and they get ready to chase them. All right, so have you gotten that down? Let's go ahead and look at this map real quick. The first thing I said, we know that Beth Aven has been found and Bethel has been found. And of course now it has been written in, and this is Arabic. This is where in red El Makatir, and I'll give you the first word in just a minute when it pops up again. It's Kirbet. I just thought of it. And that is where Ai has been located and digging has started. But they had to go back to the basics in doing that. So here's some wordage. Then we're going to look at some pictures again and some more. And then I'll just be looking at archaeological finds with you. Today, one can see how the battle unfolded by looking at the topography around Kirbet El Makatir. Again, that's the Arabs have named that site. That's Ai. I'd far rather have Ai. North of the site is the highest hill in the region called Jebel Abu Amar, where Joshua's main force encamped. Between it and Kirbet al-Makatir is a shallow valley where the king of Ai could see the Israelite decoy force coming to battle. Immediately west of the site is the steep valley of the Wadi Shaban, in which Joshua's ambush force hid. So let's go look. All right, so there, the far area to the far left, way up on a hill, we're in the mountains, that's where Ai is. Now this is modern. You can see highways going around the dig. As you can see, going up over to the right, up over the mount and around the circle, come down, and it comes back at us through some buildings and perhaps businesses. To the far right is Wadi. Wadi is a dried riverbed. It doesn't always remain dry, but when it rains, it will have water flowing. And this is where the ambush hid back there. And so they really couldn't be seen until they came out of there. And then from the city, the watchtower, the watchman could see what was going on and see them coming. Doesn't look very far apart, does it? Just look at the side of the buildings, and I don't know that this wouldn't be, if we didn't struggle getting up the hill, that less than a half hour we could walk this if we didn't have to walk on the road. So know how to find and how to know when you find it, and that's the right stuff. So once again, in Scripture, we know we're looking for fortification walls. If we go digging, it's going to be strong walls. It has a main gate facing north, and that's implied in Joshua 8:11. So that has to be a larger gate facing north. Secondly, it's a relatively small site, and it is. You're going to get to see a computer put together at the end. And there has to be evidence of the presence of women. So this could have been a military exercise camp or something. Or perhaps the Egyptians had been coming through the area, and they did, and they made that a stay, and then they left. Well, they'd find things, but not these things. But in every case, a city is going to have evidence of women, not just an army of guys. Excavation at Kirbet el Makatir have revealed a small small fortress dating to the Middle and Late Bronze Ages. That's our dates. That's what we're looking for. Although only about 2.5 acres in size, the foundation of the fortification walls on the north and west side were found to be 13 feet wide. Those are strong walls. On the north side of the fortress, a four-chambered gate was unearthed. A main gate, north side. Two of the gate's socket stones were discovered in the gate passageway, and others were found nearby. Right, so the doors got ripped off, the city burned, and in doing so they yanked some of the socket stones out. There is a socket stone right there, 6 of them from this city gate. So that's where you drop your hinges down into for the gate to swing open. So let's just take a look for a while, and we'll come back to something in a minute. We know this for a fact, that we found Ai, and look at some of the digs. Look at the places people sat down. And of course, we're down into the ground where the city would have stood. Because if a mound is left, it's filled in all the buildings. Knocked them down, filled in areas. Christians, can get involved and be part of some of these excavations that are going on in Israel. And there's a charge for it, but it counts all your food and where they put you up every night. But be prepared to go for about 6 to 8 weeks. But you can jump right in, and can you ever learn? So here they are digging, and it's rare that pickaxes get used. Archaeology is more toothbrush than it is pickaxe. But if he's using the pickaxe, it means that they know what he's breaking up. And here's just some of the city towns around it. Do you see how it's on a hill? See the ground is still rising a little bit there. They found an infant burial jar with the skeleton inside, and obviously it means women were present with children. Very important to know that. So that answered that one of the right questions. And so we need to look at the right date. We've been looking at right things, the right location. Here's the right date. The evidence of occupation dates into the 15th century BC, 1400s. There's evidence of destruction by fire in the same century. The city got burned down. And they've not found that anything was rebuilt over it. Now here's an interesting fact. 3 Egyptian scarabs were found in this date window also. And that means that the Egyptians were coming through the area, and they left these behind. They dropped them, they did whatever. But were they out on the trade route? Maybe they were coming from the east as traders, and they stopped in. The Egyptians would come and go through the land, and there was not really a lot of concern of fighting. And then just at the end here, here's the computer. And we're looking at the north side, so we're looking south. Now people would live outside the city walls, and that's where they'd do their herding, their farming, building, getting building supplies, whatever. And they could go down in the valley, get their water, etc. But if there was ever a problem of war or anything, they'd run into the city. And remember, the number was 12,000 men were killed, so they probably had a population of around 25,000. But this was a small city that carried a great clout and gave Israel a black eye. So in the case of Ai, the only ancient text with information about the site is the Bible. And Khirbet el-Makatir is the only site that meets all of the biblical criteria. It has the right stuff in the right place at the right time. Right? Right. Well, thank you for being with us. This is a bibliography that goes back to the teaching of chapter 8. And this is where you can find me. And I hope this has been a help and given you some information on a city that was leveled, but the past is now becoming the present as they dig up and find about what Joshua did to this town. Thank you for being with us, and I'll see you next time for chapter 9.